Welcome back to Chapters of Growth. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into Cal Newport's book, So Good They Can't Ignore You.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
It's a book that challenges conventional wisdom on building a fulfilling career, and I'm really excited to get into it.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about this book is it kind of pushes back against the whole, follow your passion thing.
Right.
Newport argues for a more pragmatic approach, like a craftsman's mindset, I think is what he calls it.
So instead of chasing like some pre-existing passion,
Right.
we should focus on just becoming really good at something first.
Exactly. And the book suggests that passion often emerges as a result of mastery. Like, as you become more skilled and knowledgeable in a certain area, the work itself becomes more engaging and satisfying.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
It reminds me of that saying, practice makes perfect. The
absolutely.
more you put in,
Mm.
the more you get out.
And this is actually backed by research, too. Studies have shown that job satisfaction is often linked to things like autonomy, competence, and positive relationships with colleagues. And these are all things that you typically earn over time through hard work and dedication rather than stumbling upon them, through some preordained passion.
So it's not necessarily about finding a job that you're instantly passionate about.
Right.
It's more about developing valuable skills and expertise
Yeah,
that will ultimately lead to a more fulfilling career.
precisely. And, Newport uses some compelling examples in the book to illustrate this point. For instance, he talks about Steve Jobs. Did you know that Jobs wasn't initially passionate about computers?
Really?
Yeah.
I always kind of thought of him as like this, tech visionary
Yeah.
from the start.
But his early interests were actually in calligraphy and Eastern spirituality, and it was only after he developed technical skills at Atari that he started to see the potential of personal computers and then co-founded Apple.
Oh, wow. So his passion for technology actually grew out of his experiences and skills, not the other way around.
Right. The book encourages readers to adopt this craftsman mindset, where the focus is on consistently improving your skills and the quality of your output. He uses another example, the musician Jordan Tice.
Okay.
Tice is a master of this flat picking guitar style, and he spends hours each day honing his technique.
I can see how that dedication to his craft would be incredibly rewarding, regardless of whether he initially had like a burning passion for music or not.
It's about taking pride in your work and striving for excellence. And, this actually ties into another key concept from the book, career capital.
Career capital.
Yeah.
Is that like the skills and knowledge you acquire that make you valuable in the job market?
That's a great way to put it. It's those rare and valuable skills that you build that give you leverage and autonomy in your career. Think of it like currency in the job market. The more career capital you have, the more options and opportunities become available to you.
So it's not enough to just have a job. You need to be constantly investing in your skills and building up that career capital to create a more fulfilling and impactful career.
You got it. The book uses the example of Ira Glass, the host of This American Life.
Yeah.
He spent years honing his storytelling and interviewing skills before he achieved widespread recognition. He didn't just wake up one day with a hit radio show. He put in the work to build the skills necessary to create it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about having something valuable to offer,
Yeah.
something that sets you apart from the crowd.
Exactly. And the book really stresses the transactional nature of career capital.
Okay.
It's not about entitlement, It's
Yeah.
not about demanding a dream job right out of the gate.
Yeah.
It's about creating something of value that other people will recognize and want to be a part of.
So how do we actually go about building this career capital? The book talks about deliberate practice, right? I've heard that term thrown around a lot, but I'm not sure I fully understand what it means.
Well, deliberate practice is crucial for building career capital. It's not just about mindlessly putting in hours. It's about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone and actively seeking out ways to improve your skills.
Okay, so can you give me an example of what that might look like in practice?
Yeah, imagine you're learning a new language, right? Deliberate practice would involve not just passively listening to audio lessons, but also actively engaging in conversations, seeking feedback on your pronunciation and grammar, and consistently pushing yourself to use more complex sentence structures. It's about identifying your weaknesses and actively working to improve them.
So it's about being intentional with your learning and constantly seeking out ways to challenge yourself.
Exactly.
That
Think of it like an athlete training for the Olympics. They don't just show up on the day of the competition and expect to win. They have a rigorous training regimen designed to push their limits and maximize their performance.
That's a great analogy. but I have to admit, it sounds a bit intimidating. The idea of constantly pushing yourself to the limit can be a little daunting.
Yeah. It's definitely not always comfortable, but that's what makes it so effective. The book emphasizes that deliberate practice is not common in most fields. Most people reach a level of competence that they deem acceptable, and then they stop pushing themselves. That's where the opportunity lies, for those who are willing to embrace the discomfort and keep striving for improvement.
So if you're consistently engaging in deliberate practice, you're going to outpace everyone else in your field.
Precisely. It's about developing a growth mindset and viewing challenges as opportunities for learning and development. The book highlights the story of Alex Berger, a TV writer who used deliberate practice to break into the notoriously competitive world of Hollywood.
Wow, so he didn't just rely on natural talent or luck. He had a strategy for honing his craft and making himself stand out.
Exactly. He was constantly writing new scripts, seeking feedback from experienced writers, and refining his storytelling abilities. This dedication to deliberate practice ultimately led to his success.
That's incredibly inspiring. It really highlights the power of hard work and dedication.
Absolutely. But it's important to note that even with a solid foundation of career capital, there are still potential pitfalls to be aware of. The book warns about 2 control traps.
Control traps,
Yeah.
what are those?
Well, the first trap is pursuing control too early before you have enough career capital to bargain with.
Yeah.
It's like trying to negotiate a raise after only working at a company for a month. You haven't yet demonstrated your value or proven your ability to contribute at a high level.
So it's important to have patience and focus on building up your skills and experience before demanding more control or autonomy.
Right.
Okay, what about the second trap?
The second trap occurs when you do have the capital to leverage, but you encounter resistance from those who benefit from your current lack of control. This could be a boss who's reluctant to give you more responsibility, or a company culture that discourages individual initiative.
That sounds tricky. How do you know which trap you're facing?
That's the challenging part. It requires a careful assessment of your situation, the value you bring to the table, and the true nature of the resistance you're encountering. The book offers strategies for navigating these traps, but it emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and a clear understanding of your career goals.
So building valuable skills, embracing deliberate practice, and navigating control traps, that's the foundation for a meaningful career, according to Cal Newport.
That's a great summary. But there's one more crucial element he explores: identifying your mission.
Hold on, before we dive into that, I just want to remind our listeners that if they're intrigued by these ideas, the link to buy So Good They Can't Ignore You is in the episode description. It's a book that can really change the way you think about your career.
It really can.
Now back to missions. What does Cal Newport mean by having a mission in your career?
He argues that a mission provides a compelling direction for your work, but it's not something you necessarily start with. It's something you discover after building career capital.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
So think of it this way. To really see the innovative possibilities in your field, what Newport calls the adjacent possible, you need to reach the cutting edge.
Okay, so you're saying I need to become an expert first, then I can figure out my mission.
Yeah, it's not about picking a passion and sticking to it no matter what.
Yeah.
It's about developing the skills and knowledge that give you that unique perspective and allow you to make a real impact. The book shares the story of Party Sabeti. She's a computational geneticist who's done some groundbreaking research on diseases like Ebola.
Wow, that's impressive. But she didn't start her career with that specific mission in mind, right?
Exactly. She took a winding path, studied biology, went to medical school, even led a rock band.
Wait, a rock band.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I would never have guessed that from her scientific accomplishments.
It's that unique combination of skills and experiences that allowed her to find her niche in computational genetics and make such a significant contribution to the field.
That's so inspiring. It really challenges the idea of having like a linear career path.
It does. And once you have a sense of your mission, the book suggests using little bets to refine and clarify it.
Little bets, like experimenting with different projects to see what resonates with you and what seems to have the most potential.
Exactly. Newport uses the example of the archaeologist Kirk French.
Okay.
He started out studying ancient Mayan water management, but ultimately found his true calling in popularizing archaeology through documentaries and TV shows like American Digger.
The guy from American Digger was a Mayan archaeologist. That's wild. I had no idea.
It is. And it all started with him taking small, achievable steps to explore his interest in media. He digitized an old documentary, filmed some sample footage in Mexico, even investigated a crazy claim about Knights Templar treasure in someone's backyard.
So these little bets allowed him to test the waters and discover a path he might not have even known existed.
Exactly. It's not about having like a perfect plan from the outset.
Right.
It's about being open to trying new things and seeing where they lead you. And this brings us to the final piece of the mission puzzle, the marketing mindset.
Marketing mindset. I thought we were talking about finding meaningful work, not becoming a salesperson.
It's not about being slick or manipulative.
Okay.
It's about understanding what resonates with people, what problems need solving, and how you can use your skills to create something valuable for others.
So even if I'm not in a traditional marketing or sales role,
Right.
I should still be thinking about how my work is perceived and how it can benefit others.
Absolutely. The book highlights the example of Giles Boket, a programmer who found success by combining his technical skills with artistic pursuits. He was deliberate about choosing projects that would showcase his talent and attract attention.
So it's not enough to just be good at something. You also need to be able to communicate its value and connect with an audience.
That's a key takeaway. Giles' success wasn't solely due to his programming abilities. It was also because he knew how to package and present his work in a way that captivated people's interest.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've covered so much ground: the craftsman mindset, building career, capital, deliberate practice, control traps, finding your mission, little bets, and now the marketing mindset. Is there anything else we need to consider on this journey to building a meaningful career?
Well, that's the beauty of it. It's an ongoing process of growth, exploration, and refining your craft. The book provides a fantastic framework for thinking about your career, but it's ultimately up to each individual to apply these principles in their own unique way.
This conversation has definitely sparked a lot of new ideas for me. I'm already starting to see my own career in a different light.
That's what's so exciting about this book. It empowers you to take control of your work and create a career that's both successful and deeply fulfilling.
Before we move on to the final piece of Cal Newport's framework, I want to remind our listeners again that if this conversation has resonated with them, be sure to check out So Good They Can't Ignore You. The link to buy it is in the show description.
It's a must-read for anyone who's, ready to ditch the follow your passion myth and embrace a more deliberate and empowering approach to building a meaningful career.
Now let's shift our focus to a final, crucial element of crafting a fulfilling work life. The importance of control. So it seems like So Good They Can't Ignore You
Yeah.
is saying that having control over your career comes from like a combination of having valuable skills and the willingness to step outside your comfort zone.
Right.
Would you say that's an accurate takeaway for our listener?
Absolutely. Think of it this way. You've spent years honing your craft, becoming incredibly good at what you do.
Right.
You've built up all this valuable career capital. You understand the landscape of your field, and you're ready to leverage that to shape your work life. But then, comes the real test. Are you willing to push for the kind of work that you truly desire?
So it's not just about becoming like a master craftsperson. It's also about having the courage to use those skills to design a career that actually aligns with your values and aspirations.
Exactly.
This almost sounds like we're talking about entrepreneurship, even if someone is working within a larger organization.
That's a great observation. It's about taking ownership of your career trajectory, whether you're leading a team, launching a new initiative, or even just negotiating for more autonomy in your current role. It all comes back to that willingness to step outside the familiar and advocate for the type of work that brings you fulfillment.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into So Good They Can't Ignore You. It really flips the script on traditional career advice and empowers us to take a more proactive approach to crafting a fulfilling work life.
Yeah, and it's packed with so many more thought-provoking ideas and real-world examples that we couldn't cover in our time today.
Well, if this conversation has resonated with you, we highly recommend you check out Cal Newport's book. The link to buy it is in the description.
It's a must-read for anyone who wants to, ditch the follow your passion myth and embrace a more deliberate approach to building a meaningful career.
And here's something to consider as you move forward on your own career journey. Cal Newport focuses on building career capital within a specific field. But what if your true calling lies at the intersection of multiple disciplines?
Oh, that's interesting.
How do you build capital when your skills and interests span different domains? That's something to ponder as you explore the ideas we've discussed today.
That's a great question.
And as always, thank you for joining us on Chapters of Growth podcast. Subscribe to our channel to stay inspired and keep growing.